Today we're talking about The Ideal Team Player, which is a book of mine that was kind of a sequel to The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I wrote it years later, but it came about kind of by accident. And I want to explain that to you before I get into the contents. Years ago, before I even started the table group with a group of friends, we came up with core values for a department I worked at and I led in another company. And I had read a book called Built to Last, which talked about the importance of having core values. So we went out and got some. And we picked 3 core values and said, we're going to run our company, our department, and then our company based on those core values. So we started the table group. We said, these are our core values. And we went out and started working with companies to help them with teamwork and clarity and all the other things we do. And when we get to the part about their core values, how do you behave? Inevitably, they would say, well, what are your company's core values, Pat? And I would say, well, it's these 3 things. And they'd say, yeah, we're going to use those too. And I'd say, no, you can't use those. You have to come up with your own. And they say, but we like those. And I always thought that they were just being kind of lazy. And it wasn't until years later that I realized there was something universally applicable about those 3 values. And in fact, they were the core values of what it meant to be a team player. Now, this made sense because my company, the table group, is all about teamwork. And that's how we operated before. So we realized that this wasn't just ours, but it was something that anyone who wanted to hire people and behave as a team would probably want to use as a criteria for who to put on that team. So that's what we're going to talk about right now, is the 3 values that make up a team, or a great team player, I should say. Now, the first, all of these are remarkably simple, by the way, but it's the combination that's powerful. But let's go through the individual ones first. The first value that a person should have if they're going to be a great team player is that they need to be humble. Humility is critical. This is by far the most important. You know, if the root of all sin is pride, as it says in the Bible, the antidote to that is humility. And humility just means, it sounds simple, but it's just this: I'm more interested in others than myself. I don't think I'm the most important person in the world. Humility is not discounting your contributions or your gifts or your geniuses. Humility is knowing that it was a gift, so you shouldn't brag about it, but you should be aware of the fact that you're good at it, but you don't need to, as C.S. Lewis said, it's not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking about yourself less. So a humble person can be confident, and in fact they should be, but they shouldn't be about themselves, they should be about others. Humility is key. But that's not enough to be a great team player. You have to be humble, but you also have to be hungry. A great team player has a strong work ethic. They're not easily satisfied. They don't say, I'll just do the bare minimum or a little less. They say, I'd like to go above and beyond. I have a hunger for getting better and doing better for the people around me. So you want to be humble and you want to be hungry. But that's not enough. There's a third value that's critical, and it's what we call smart. Smart is not intelligence, though, in the sense of book smarts. Smart is really emotional intelligence, or even better yet, being aware of the people around you and how your words and actions influence them. You know, you understand that you're with other people and that there's interaction going on between them. So a person to be an ideal team player will be humble, hungry, and smart. But none of us are perfect. We all have bad days or bad weeks or months, and we struggle with one of these. And when we're hiring somebody or we already work with somebody, sometimes a person is lacking one of those in a fairly egregious way. And that's where what we have to do is develop ourselves and others in the area that they need help in. And hopefully they can add that last one. Because if a person cannot improve in their third area, if they're really naked to the fact that one of these is just not true, we have problems. Let's look at what we call people who struggle with one of the 3 values. Okay, first, imagine a person is humble and hungry. What a great place to start. But they lack emotional intelligence. They're not smart about people. That means they're going to say things and do things that other people might misinterpret, and you're going to have to clean up after them or make excuses for them, valid excuses, but you're going to have to actually explain their behaviors. I have a lot of time for these people, but we call this the accidental mess maker. They're like a puppy with great intentions that knocks things over, poops on the floor, you got to clean up after them, but they really mean well. You just have to teach them how to be more aware of how their words and actions impact others. Okay, that's humble and hungry. Well, let's say a person is humble and smart. So they're not ego-driven and they're really good at dealing well with other people. They're just not very hungry. We call this person the lovable slacker. The lovable slacker. Now, the problem with the lovable slacker is that they're so lovable that sometimes it's hard to make them change because everybody likes them because they deal well with people. They're not ego-driven, so what a pleasant person to be around. The problem is you've got to constantly remind them to do more and to do more and to do more, and other people usually have to pick up their slack. So if you can get that person to be hungry, either by helping them understand the impact they have on the team or by helping them connect more to the mission and to their values, then what you can do is you can turn them into the ideal team player. Okay, the final type is a person who's hungry, they want to work really hard, and they're smart. They really know how to interact with other people, but they lack humility. I will go so far as to say this is a dangerous situation because they're smart enough to project humility because they know that that's important, and they really are ambitious and want to get work done. And we call this the skillful politician. And that's because they often know how to present themselves in a way that's not honest. They're good at interviewing. They're good at going to meetings and pretending they care about the team. And sometimes by the time you realize that they're really about themselves and not about others, there's been a lot of damage done to the team. We have to be very careful about skillful politicians. Now, what we shouldn't do is go around and use these terms for people when they're struggling or if they have one that's missing. This is about us being able to understand it. Because what we need to do is go to a person and say, hey, if this is your third area, we will coach you around that. We will help you with that. Most importantly, we will constantly remind you that you need to get better in that third area. The good news is most people, if they're constantly reminded, will actually get better because they know, oh my gosh, they're not going to leave me alone until I improve. Or if they don't want to improve in that area, they'll opt out of the organization saying, I want to go work someplace that doesn't make me be an ideal team player. Very infrequently are you going to have to manage a person out of an organization if you're constantly reminding them of the importance of humble, hungry, and smart. And if you can develop people to be that way, or even better yet, hire people that are naturally these things, teamwork becomes so much easier and work becomes so much more productive, fulfilling, and dignified.